Are you in the market for a new espresso machine? In this video, I'm going to be reviewing the Ascaso Steel PID. So if you haven't heard of this machine before, it is a big and strong machine that makes coffee with hot water blocks. Some people may think that machines with hot water blocks are small and weak, but this one is not. The Ascaso Steel PID uses good materials and it's very, very heavy. It weighs about 34 pounds and also includes the 20 amp socket for increased power. And if you don't have a 20 amp socket, you're gonna have to get an adapter, just like I did. So the machine that I'm looking at here is white and shiny. It's got a few parts that are made of steel, like the part where the coffee comes out, the part where the water comes out, the part where you put your cups, and also the part where you make the milk hot and foamy, and the part where you catch the drips. The brew head is made of brass. This is what holds the portafilter, the thing that holds your coffee, and helps stabilize brewing temperatures. The Ascaso Steel PID also has 4 switches. They won't make your car bounce, but you can flick them to turn them on, get hot water, make coffee, or make steam. It also has a small screen that shows you how hot the machine is at the part where the coffee comes out, or the steam. The screen has white numbers, and I like the white numbers because I think they look nice, especially with the rest of the machine. Here you can access the settings for the machine as well as see how long your espresso has been pulled. If you look to your left, you'll see a thing that tells you how much pressure there is. This is your pressure gauge. In the middle of the front, you also see the name of the machine. It says Ascaso. So when you look at the machine from the side, you'll see that it's not straight. The part where you put the cups is a little bit tilted back. Whether or not this is a good design or a bad design, you tell me. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, isn't it? The cups move back and forth and make noise when you make coffee. This is kind of annoying, so I'll tell you a little bit more about that later. The top part of the machine also gets warm, which can make your espresso cups happy and warm. The portafilter that the machine came with is heavy and pretty. It's got a nice wooden handle and it feels good in your hand. It also has 2 holes or spouts where the coffee comes out, and it's also fun to use. But I actually got a different one that has no spouts. Without any spouts, you'll know if you pulled a good shot or a bad shot. And the more you know, the better you'll get. Even though there isn't supposed to be much of a warm-up time for this machine, I like to make sure that it's hot enough. So usually, I like to wait at least 10 minutes, and sometimes I even flush the water out of the brew head to make it go a little bit quicker. It's very important to make sure your coffee is brewed at the correct temperature. Totally optional, of course. One of the things that I love about this machine is that it has pretty lights. You can see what's on and you can see what you're doing, especially if you like to brew your espresso in the dark. I wish more machines had these features because it makes it easier and more fun to use. When you can see the part that holds your coffee, what your coffee looks like before and after you've brewed your shot. I think this machine gets a lot of attention because of all the different things that it can do. It has a part that makes your cups warm on top, which I actually unplugged because I don't like my espresso too hot. I've got sensitive teeth. And it has 2 separate hot water blocks that are controlled by a thing called a PID. The PID helps to make sure that your coffee and your milk are just right. Not too hot, not too cold. Just like Goldilocks. And maybe the most important thing is that it measures how hot it is at the part where the coffee comes out. So in the brew head. And that's the best place to measure, by the way. Not at the hot water block, which is going to be hotter, and not after, which is going to be after it's brewed. The Ascaso Steel Duo PID also has a part that makes your milk hot and foamy without burning you. And it more or less cleans itself because of that. If you already have an espresso machine, you can say goodbye to crusty milk and steam one burns. Well, at least only if you're careful. Also, this machine can make coffee with a flip of a switch. One last thing to mention is the smart part where you catch the drips. It has some lines on it so that dirty water does not splash when you take out a full tray. It's also very nice. But the annoying thing is that the tray makes cups dance. So you've got to hold them down just a little bit. And yes, there's a funny release like a steam engine when you switch off the steam. Kind of sounds like a steam-powered train. Or maybe even like Puff the Magic Dragon. You tell me. So you might be wondering, hot water block versus hot water jet versus a boiler. One thing to remember is that this machine uses hot water blocks, which are better than hot water jets used in cheaper machines. And if you're not so comfortable with Thermoblocks or hot water blocks just yet, look at the decent DE1 espresso machine, which is a pricey machine that also uses hot water blocks in their design. Hot water blocks are definitely more stable than their cheaper cousins because they cost a little bit more money. And also compared to a normal boiler machine like the Rancilio Sylvia V3 PID, they heat up faster, use less energy, and can make as much steam as you want. Just make sure to refill your water tank. And since there's no water sitting in the boiler tank, the water stays fresh. And ask yourself, do you want stale water or fresh water? How would stale water affect your coffee? Don't ask, don't tell. The Rancilio Sylvia V3 PID is another popular machine that makes coffee with a boiler, a single boiler. It also has a thing called a PID too. And this helps to control how hot the water and steam are. This was my old machine. It also has a lot of features like pre-infusion, more on this later, and a shot timer. But unlike the Ascaso, it only has one boiler for both coffee and milk. That means you have to wait for it to change temperature when you want to switch from making coffee to making milk, or vice versa. Kind of annoying for impatient people like me, especially if you want sweet, frothy milk, like right now. Since this was my old machine and the Ascaso Steel is my new one, you might be wondering how they compare. Well, I'll tell you. The Rancilio Sylvia V3 PID makes really good coffee. It has powerful steaming capability for milk-based drinks like lattes or cappuccinos. And the Ascaso Steel PID also makes very good coffee and has slightly less powerful steaming capability. I think on average for me it takes about 50 to 60 seconds to make a cup of milk, which is about enough for a latte really, and probably around 30 to 40 seconds on the Sylvia. So what makes this machine different from others? I would say how easy it is to change things. You can change how hot it is at the part where the coffee comes out from the main menu. And you can also change the pressure with the screw on the bottom of the machine. And you can also change the temperature of the steam. You can also even change how long it waits before making coffee. This is called pre-infusion. And you can change it from 0 to 5 seconds from the menu. And I would say the only thing that is missing from machine, or not really missing, but some people may find interesting, is a thing called flow control. Flow control is a feature that you can play with if you enjoy tinkering. I'm not really a tinkerer, I just like good coffee, and that's what this machine makes. The good thing about having two boilers or two hot water blocks is that you can make coffee and steam at the same time. The Ascaso Steel Duo PID can do that, but the Rancilio Sylvia cannot. Hence, that's why I upgraded. So that's about all that I have to say about the differences between the Rancilio Sylvia V3 PID and the Ascaso Steel Duo PID. Hopefully that helps you if you're considering one or the other. And a few considerations that I also wanted to share with you. The temperature stability of the brew head versus the E61 type, which is a classic brew head that you might have seen on fancy Italian espresso machines. So the Ascaso Steel Duo PID does not have an E61 group. Instead, it has a thermoblock that heats the group with a PID control. So this ensures consistent and precise temperature for brewing. This is different from the E61 group head, which relies on a heat exchanger system and passive pre-infusion. So the Thermoblock group head has the advantage of a faster heat up time because there's less thermal mass or steel that it needs to heat, and also less maintenance. And on the other hand, a properly heated E61 group head may offer better temperature stability if you're making back-to-back-to-back-to-back shots. Another thing that I wanted to also mention was the vibratory pump versus a rotary pump. The Ascaso Steel Duo PID uses a vibratory pump, which is smaller, cheaper, and easier to replace than a rotary pump. However, it's also louder and less durable. With the Ascaso Steel Duo PID, I was actually surprised that this pump is actually quieter than the Rancilio Sylvia. Surprise! And like I already mentioned before, the Ascaso Steel Duo PID uses two independent hot water blocks, also known as thermoblocks, one for brewing and one for steaming. This allows you to simultaneously brew and steam at the same time, as well as separately control the temperature for each function. You cannot do that with a single boiler, of course, but with a dual boiler machine, you would be able to. But they're more expensive and definitely consume more energy than a thermoblock machine. So if you're considering getting a single boiler dual-use espresso machine, consider the time that you would have to wait, switching back and forth between those two different functions. And you can ask yourself, what's more important, time or money? And this may or may not be important to you, but the Ascaso Steel Duo has a pressure gauge that displays the brewing temperature during extraction, and this helps you to monitor the quality of your shot. Having the pressure too low or too high can affect the quality of your shot, and you would be able to adjust this or troubleshoot this on your own if needed. And the last thing that I wanted to cover here regarding the Ascaso Steel Duo PID is the, of course, temperature control. So the PID controller offers precise and adjustable temperature control, which can affect the flavor and the quality of your coffee. Pop quiz. Did you know that higher temperatures are better for lighter roasts, while lower temperatures are better for darker roasts? Now you know. Oh wait, and one more thing. The Ascaso Steel Duo PID has the ability to do a pre-infusion from 0 to 5 seconds. Pre-infusion is the process of wetting the coffee grounds with low pressure water before applying full pressure. This helps to even out the extraction and reduce channeling and ultimately result in a better shot, especially if you didn't technically make the best puck with your tamping or grinding technique. And one of the things that sets this machine apart from others is the coffee pod functionality. So the Ascaso Steel Duo PID can use both ground coffee as well as ESC pods, or easy serving espresso pods. So ESC pods are pre-ground and pre-tamped coffee portions that are sealed in paper filters. They offer convenience, consistency, and easy cleanup. How about that? So in summary, the Ascaso Steel Duo PID is a modern espresso machine that just works. Whether you want just espresso or espresso with a few milk drinks or many milk drinks, it combines convenience and versatility of Thermoblock technology with the precision and performance of PID control. It also offers different options for coffee lovers, whether you prefer ground espresso or espresso pods, as well as the ability to brew and steam your espresso at the same time. And at the time of this video, they offer several different colors that you can choose from based on your tastes. And if you're wondering what I was also considering before deciding to invest in this machine, I was considering the Latte Elizabeth as well as the Alex Duetto, but I decided that the features of this machine are really what met my needs. I make mostly espresso with a few macchiatos every now and then for me and my family. So I hope this helps, and if I missed anything, let me know in the comments below. As often said, the espresso grinder is just as important, if not more important, than the espresso machine. Subscribe if you want to see more videos like this one. Thanks. And in my next video, I'm going to be telling you all about why I got the Eureka Atom 75 grinder and sold my old one.